CEO Podcast.
Relentless!
With Adam Kifer. Follow your path to success alongside icons and industry leaders in martial arts, fitness, and more.
Let's go!
This is the Relentless CEO Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to another fantastic episode of the Relentless CEO Podcast. You are all in for a treat for this episode because we have the one and only Jason Wilson as a guest. If you don't know who Jason Wilson is, you might remember him from this video.
Zeus! Ah! 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 Pull in, punch all the way through. When you feel the pain, go all the way through. That could be a barrier in life or anything. Punch hard. Zeus! Ah! Zeus! Ah! You gotta punch it hard enough. Punch through it. You feel pain?
Yes, sir.
Shake that off. Let's go. Zeus! Ah! Zeus! Ah! Zeus! Ah! Zeus! That's what this is about. Good. Let's get to that. Why are you crying? That's what this is about, son. It's okay to cry. We cry as men. Why are you crying, though, son? Come on. Tell me, why are you crying? It's called a test for a reason, but why are you crying? Go ahead, son. Because what?
Because it is hard to push through with my left hand.
Okay, good. But you did it, though. You punched through with your left hand. You know in life there's going to be things harder for you to do than other things?
Yes, sir.
And you know those things that may appear to be hard to do, you're going to have to do as a man, regardless. And it's going to take tears. It's going to take the blood of Yeshua, Jesus, and your sweat to break through it. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So I don't mind you crying. I cry a lot too. You know what I'm saying? All right. So I want you to you're pulling your blow. I don't know if you're facing fear or you're feeling that you may not make it. And we all face that from time to time. And when as soon as we hit resistance, we want to stop, right? Because it's hurting. We feel that pain. We're like, I'm not going through this no more, right?
Yes, sir.
But we have to go all the way through as men. It's going to be very painful. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Being a black man in this country, you're going to need mental fortitude. You're going to have to be strong here more so than here. You understand?
Yes, sir.
You can do it. You just got to put your mind to it. And it's good to cry so you can work through that emotion. So when it arises again, you can push it to the side and do what you got to do. You understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Let's see what you got. But you need to dig hard. Tell me what hard as you can. There you go. Always dig deep. And you may not be able to break a habit or whatever the first time. Keep fighting, keep going through it. And that's where you're going. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Good job. Right. Yes, sir. All right. Zeus, you can do your numbers? Go ahead. Huh? Come on, Bruce. Keep going, son. Right now. Chest down. 12. 13. You the one chose the numbers. 15. 16. 17. Good. Come on, keep going. Good. Good. Take a break. Keep the knuckles on. Keep the knuckles on. That's how we do it. This is what it is to be a father.
Am I doing 50 for real?
No, sir. Zeus!
You got it, bro.
Come on.
You got it.
Come on, big boy. You know how to back if you ain't got it. That's what we do, right? You gotta dig deep. Being a black father is a challenge, right?
Amen.
Yeah. So it ain't gonna be easy. Wait till you get 16. You ready? Dig. I ain't even got to dig. Give me the thing. Hurry up. All right, now this for you, because you my man. So when tough times get tough, this is just the enemy. So you put the thing in, right? I want you to block your mind out It's gonna happen when you raise up your son. So drop the pain out. Good. Go to 10. 5. Good. Put your knees down. All right. Excellent. I always push certain men a little further, and you've been like a role model dad. I mean, like major. And you can bring him every day, not missing, and supporting in cave, and how you take him to the rallies and all that. It doesn't go unnoticed, brother. So I salute you, you know, for being that type of father. It's an honor to have you. Respect. Yeah.
I'm sure all of you remember seeing that video pop up all over your news feeds in the past couple of years, and you can see how special of a person that Jason Wilson is in that video because of his ability to really connect on an emotional level with his students, and that's something that's missing in our industry, and that's one of the main reasons I wanted him not only to come on the podcast, but also to be one of the keynote speakers for the 2023 Relentless Membership Summit. And in this episode, we cover not only different instructor concepts, but you won't believe how in alignment his vision is with his purpose and with how he actually executes on the training floor. It's one of the many reasons he has a wait list of 800 people for his martial arts school. That is insane. Most of us would die for 800 members. He has a wait list of 800. This is an episode you don't want to miss. As you're watching, if you guys have any questions, comments, want to give us feedback on topics to touch in the future, please drop those in the comments below so that we can take your feedback and turn it into reality. I hope you all enjoy. Yeah, so I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. I've been following you, I think since the video went viral of the board break and you coaching that young boy through that challenge and getting him to overcome his fear. And one of the things that stood out the most to me, just following your content and watching your video, is how you are so good at having hard conversations with kids to get them to really put a different perspective in the challenge that they're facing, how to deal with their emotions and overcoming that challenge, and then getting to the next level. And I think with a lot of the martial arts schools that I've been to and the ones we work with, a lot of instructors shy away from those conversations because they're afraid about how the response is going to be from the child or from the parent. So one of the things I'm curious about is what are some of the things that go through your mind when you're helping to coach a young athlete through those moments where they're just struggling to get the concept or reach the goal you've put in front of them?
It's a great question. My main goal is to give them what I always want. So that always stays in front of me, which is one of the main reasons I never teach if I'm frustrated. I stay off the mats. I always have to be in a place where I know, first and foremost, God can move me, but two, where my emotions can't play a role where it could hinder giving my student the best that he needs, not what I expect. And so with that being said, my end goal is just to give him what I want. A man I could look up to and respect, who could teach me how to be a warrior with my hands, but also a comprehensive man in life. And so I give them the freedom to be emotional in that moment, to really dig deep so they can become verbal processors instead of men who have to only lean on the emotion of anger to express hurt, sadness, depression, fear of failure. And it's amazing when you open up that space, man, it become not only better students, of course, martial arts, it's majority mentally and emotionally.
Yes.
The body is a slave to those two. But more so in life and school, being a good son to your parent, you name it. And so that's my goal when I make the time to shut everything off. I stop the whole class for one student. Everyone has to stop. And so we have a saying, everyone will have a moment on the mat, and it's the truth.
That's powerful. And I'm sure it's such a good lesson for the rest of the students too, when they're watching that moment happen, that they're learning from maybe someone else's challenge or someone else's failure and being able to take that lesson home with them as well. That's super powerful. And I love that you have such a big focus on emotional intelligence when you're teaching, because I think it's something that's not really touched upon at all for our youth. And what are some of the ways that you really focus on implementing emotional intelligence and really coaching up young kids and getting them to grab a hold of this concept when it's something that's pretty much a concept that most adults don't even have down yet.
Mhm. Well, I mean, it's the foundation. I mean, by my faith, I'm a follower of the Most High. You said Christian, and so in the beginning, when Cain killed Abel, uh, the Most High told Cain, if you just, sin is crouching at your doorstep, but you must master it. So right there, if the whole issue was Cain not presenting his best gift, but if he would have did what was right, if he wouldn't allowed his emotions to master him, he could have been in good standings with God. And so that's the key is like when we understand that that is the foundation, not how hard you can kick, not how fast you can tap someone out, not how hard you can punch or how crisp your elbows are, but what's going on inside, what triggers the response instead of a reaction. So many men I know who are in jail right now because they reacted to what they thought was a threat instead of responding, and they could have controlled whatever was going on. What I've noticed, I get reached out to by a lot of martial art instructors, more so a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu coaches and teachers as well. And what I think the main problem is, Adam, is that it's not the instructor per se, or the coach, or the sensei. It's the culture, the belt culture, the awards culture, the trophies culture that pushes the teacher who has to keep the lights and the heat on in the school so that he can continue to do what he feels his purpose is. But in the process of that, if he doesn't have a parent that's patient and understands the real process is working from the inside out, he has to, go along. I mean, he could be a champion grappler, kicker, whatever. But he knows after years of training, it's about the end of battle. But if a parent isn't patient enough and all they want are the trophies, you won't get the testimonies.
Yeah, I think that's so true. So uh, piggybacking off that, how do you prepare the mind of the parents that are bringing their kids into you to understand the patience part of that journey?
It's interesting. I don't have I guess the barriers or not the barriers, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't have to have that conversation because people see the videos, they see the results, so they're coming for that. We have almost a little over 800 boys on our waiting list right now.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. It's deep. When I think like, man, this is really good, but at the same time, it grieves my soul because I want to help these boys, and so I'm focusing on doing more virtual trainings, especially via app. But I don't have those issues, Adam. It's like they know when parents come or even men come, they know the real war is within. It's this what's around us is nothing. If I can defeat you internally, spiritually, and mentally, you're done. And so the parents they come to our academy for that. But how I would suggest a martial art instructor who is desiring to really become more comprehensive in his coaching, and he wants to help the student to become more well-rounded. I would ask the parent, do you mind if we have an open discussion for the first 20 minutes? Talk about life. What's pressuring them at school? Then tie a jujitsu, or karate, whatever technique or drill to the life lesson. And then that's how a parent can see, like, okay, wait a minute. He's getting in their heads right now, getting them to release what's going on. And then he's teaching them martial arts as well. So you're getting more than what you're really paying for. And so it's so many great martial art instructors that are really rooted in principles and whys who want to teach this way, the way I teach. But because the way they were the torch, really will have to start from ground zero, from the way they've been trained. But I would just tell them, man, follow your heart. Even from a business standpoint, I mean, you could do so much more. I mean, you can, of course, have the martial arts training, but then you got tutoring and all these other things that can branch off of your school. In our academy, we have workforce development. We teach them dining etiquette and grooming etiquette. Then they learn construction, and then public speaking skills, etc. So it's much more than being a martial artist. I often say I'm not a martial artist, but I'm a man with a martial heart. And so
Wow, that's
that's
awesome.
what That's what we aim for. And I know there's some great teachers out here, man, and they just need to be given the freedom to really be what's needed for now.
I agree. Do you feel like in our industry, ego often gets in the way of those type of conversations happening more on the mat?
If the ego exists, just from the instructors I know, it would be from the parents, not the instructors. I mean, if you have someone that's qualified that's teaching, especially children, I hope that he has his ego. He's been broken enough. He's lost enough. He's had enough injuries enough to understand that it's not about what you pretty much want. It's about getting the best for your children or those that you're teaching, teaching them what they need to know for their life. And so that's all I could go on because I haven't really met too many. I haven't met any. I don't believe maybe a couple like bad martial art instructors. Like this
Sure.
guy, what's the movie Karate Kid? What they call it, Cobra
Oh
Kai.
yeah, the Cobra Kai.
I've never met a guy like that. Like never in
That's
my
good.
life. I mean, I've been training in various martial arts for over 25 years, and I've never met that guy. And I know they exist because you see the videos, you see the news reports where kids are actually killed by their instructors. I don't know if you heard about that one judo instructor basically threw his student so many times or had a student thrown so many times that he died. And so those are like the extremes that I hate hearing, but overall it can be both. We're all humans, and so if you haven't
Sure.
checked your emotions and and then more so, I'm real. I'm very serious with like coaches who lead boys through like sports like basketball, football, baseball, etc. And I really believe that it's time for coaches to have psych evaluations before you can coach.
I agree.
And it made me, martial arts, you really don't see that. You see more of that in like, sports, but not really like in martial arts. Like, but there are cases where it happens, like I just told you about the young kid who died by his judo instructor, and all of us need psych evals. I make sure I have a psych eval at least once every 3 years, man, to make sure I'm on point and that I've released all the trauma or the significant trauma I've been through, the losses, and every man, every woman deserves that opportunity, and they need it. And so I really encourage martial art instructors to take a deep dive themselves.
Yeah, I love that. I tend to see in our industry, it's usually the less skilled martial arts instructors that have the most ego. And usually the ones that that just are capable of violence and have great technique and martial arts in their life, they're usually the most humble and the people that show absolutely no ego when they probably have every right to with their accomplishments and their training. So it's interesting. But let me ask you what got you into martial arts in the first place, and then how did that evolve into finding this passion for what you're doing now?
Like many boys, I'm pretty sure yourself as well. It's you always want to know how to fight, man. The last thing you want to do is not be nice, be able to defend yourself, be good with your hands, your feet, whatever. And so that's what got me into it. You see the kung fu movies, the Five Deadly Venoms, the 36 Chamber. I mean, all of these classic movies with guys flying around. You're like, whoa, I can do that. Um, so that's what got me, like any boy, the nunchucks, the shurikens, you name it, man. And so I studied. I don't want to even call it studying ninjutsu because at the time, those who said they knew ninjutsu in the early '80s didn't know ninjutsu here.
Everyone was
In my
teaching
city,
ninja.
in my city. I'm not gonna say it in my city. And so that's what got me. I love the fact that the controlling the emotions, the meditation that came with it, and so that's what drew me in. But eventually, I learned to discover that it was my father wound. It was the absence of my father being in my life. And that's all a sensei or a coach is to a young boy. Become like a father, a mentor. Like, man, this man is helping me overcome so much, and that's what all of us desire. And so from there, going into training in judo, combat jujitsu under a guy named Sekou Landers or Bruce Landers, Kajana Sheshawayo and Kempo, Katsumi and Aikido Jutsu, Tyrone Gooden, and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And I could go on and on. And all of those men were not like fathers, but they played a part in my development,
Sure.
And so I revere all of them, respect them, and love them. And so the Cave of Adullam, what I'm doing today, it needed to evolve from what I received to something more than what was needed. And for the longest, man, I was chasing just belt ranks and, I need to know this art and keto. I forgot about that. Let me try this and see how effective this is. And one day, my friend, who's a high ranking judoka, he says, "You don't need another belt rank. You need 4 walls." And that right there made me open up my own place. And
Mm.
when at the time, man, there were scare straight programs around, a lot of them, and I participated even in a few. And I quickly discovered that you can't help a young man heal from trauma by re-traumatizing them.
Yes.
And so as a result, you don't see scare straight programs anymore, hardly. Boot camps. When last time you seen a boot camp for boys?
Sure.
Because they know how to play the role, act disciplined, and then when they get out, they go back to their ways. And so the Cave of Adullam became this safe space where boys are not challenged but encouraged. So I actually eliminated the word challenge
Mm.
from my training vocabulary because the last thing a boy needs or a grown man is another challenge. Walking out the front door becomes that sometimes. And so our encouragement in the cave, it looks like, man, they really working them, brother. They training hard. But we're encouraging you. The yelling when we yell is to affirm, it's never to condemn. If we got to get with you and deal with you, and if it's real serious, yelling comes down to this level of communication. Because if it's serious, like, so what are we going? Where are we at now? What do you want to do with this? That's more serious to a young man or a boy or man than me yelling at someone. And so the cave, I wanted to make sure, just like a cave was in general, it was a refuge. It was a safe space for men. And the cave of Adullam is where David of the Bible, where he ran from King Saul to hide for his life. And it was a safe space for him. And what was amazing about it that really made me ponder what happened in that cave, because the 400 men that came to him who were distressed, discontented, and in debt, these same men, Adam, left that cave being called mighty men of valor. What happened? They already were trained. David was a masterful warrior. And by that time, that's the reason he had to run, because he killed more people than King Saul, and Saul was jealous. So what happened in that cave? You had an opportunity for men, warriors, to come together, drop the shields, drop the swords, drop your guard, and say, man, how do we get out of this? And that's
Mm.
what boys need, and that's what men need. And so that's how I got to where I am. And just teaching martial arts alone wouldn't be enough for me, because I've known guys that could choke you in a matter of seconds, kick cups off your head, punch through bricks, boards. I mean, place kicks anywhere on your body. But for some reason, they can't keep a job, or they can't stay married. They can't, deal with adversity in life. So I'm like, what was it for? What was all of this training and sacrifice and torture for? If it's not for self mastery or learning how to rule your soul, to me, it was just a waste of time. And so I didn't want to take that path. I want to make sure all that was given to me, I expound upon it and make it better for what I feel God has called me to do.
I absolutely love the story that drives your mission and how you've connected it with the story of David in the Bible. And I think that's one of the things that's really lacking from a lot of martial arts schools. Is I think a lot of school owners open and I just want to teach martial arts because this is like the next step in evolution, but they don't have the purpose behind it for why they're actually doing what they're doing, and it starts to pull away from the level of impact that they can have in the lives of their students. And I love the alignment that you have with your purpose and your mission. I think that's directly translates to the passion that we see in the videos that you put out when you're interacting with your members. It all comes from that same place. And I think for all of our listeners, if they can pull just that one thing from this episode, I think they're going to have a much brighter and more successful and impactful future. So I appreciate you sharing that. Going back to some of the things that you're covering, I follow you on Instagram and saw recently that Well, first of all, congrats on the new location. It looks amazing. It's beautiful. I love the quote you have about mastering emotions on the wall. And I also saw that you were recently teaching a group of students about financial literacy as well. And one of the things that we focus on at our school with our life skill curriculum, if you want to call it that, is financial literacy, time management, emotional intelligence, all of those things. And I saw that post from you and I was like, yes, I'm like, we need more of that. We need more of the skills that we all wish that we learned when we were kids. So question for you, for school owners maybe that aren't there yet with the character development and the life skills portion of the martial arts, what are some ways that you determine that side of the curriculum that you teach? I know you said a lot of it is based on what you wish you learned, but how do you, number one, determine that? And then how do you figure out what is the right vehicle to use to teach that to your students and to the people you work with?
When you say the right vehicle, can you expound a little more?
So I know there's a lot of martial arts school owners that all their life skills is just done through like a 3-minute mat chat in class. And like that's the only time they're going to talk about respect or focus or goal setting or any of that things. Where you have, even if we look at the video, which I think is my favorite one, of the dad doing push-ups with the son on his back because the son was suspended from school, and you're showing that, hey, this is becoming a burden to your dad. He's got to work. He's got to do all these other things, and now he's carrying your burden with all of that. Like for me I would have never thought of that way to teach it, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, damn, I wish I thought of that. It was so good. So, and I know that's I know that's a piece that martial arts instructors struggle with. Like, how do I convey that? How do I relay that message in a drill or a better way than just talking about it?
Well, for me, man, I remember I was on Joe Rogan and he said, it's a calling and it's divine. And what you see was given to me by God. I can't take no credit for it. I mean, I just can't. I'm not even that. I'm creative, but I'm not that creative. I'm not that good. And so first thing I do, I yield my vessel to His Spirit. Whatever He needs done that day, I follow that. Of course, I have a lesson plan, but if one of my kids come in and he was bullied or had a bad day, or throw it to the side and teach around him. And so I always allow myself that freedom. I think that's what hinders a lot of teachers in general, is that you can't feel the room temperature, like what's going on with the people that are in front of me right now. Not the class before, but what's happening right in front of me. And because of that, we stick to the curriculum. We're trying to get to this goal, this end by a certain time. And because of that, we can miss so much along the journey. Another thing that was instilled in my mind, Adam, was one of my instructors, Kajana Sheshaweo, walking out the locker room, there was a sign for the instructors and it said, if the student didn't learn, the teacher didn't teach. No ifs, ands, or buts, period. That stuck with me. And so I do whatever it takes to make sure you understand the principle, the why of the technique, not the how. Because in a real fight, it's going to change. It's not going to look the same. You won't have an uke or practicing partner. But if you understand the why to why it works, it'll always be there in the fight. It will be there when things change. And so the only way you can teach principle, like the foundation, you have to first be patient. You got to be willing, maybe, hey, I got to teach a little longer verbally before I get to the physical part. And that's why I say parents play a big role in that, because if you're a good teacher and you really desire for your students to become better, you start feeling convicted, like, man, did they really get it? Did I talk too long? And all this other stuff. But if the parents say, hey, I need more of that, they need this counsel, they get the physical in a minute, but please deal with them internally. Then the teacher will have the freedom and the encouragement to do it, and then it's really an opportunity for many of us to heal, man. I mean, to be able to do something in such a way where you see kids finally can break through whatever's the reason why their parents may have brought them. It's just amazing. But as far as knowing that, outside of the spiritual side, again, just seeing if they're getting it. I knew Kevin in that one video from the documentary, he didn't get it. I literally made that up in that moment because I I don't sit around thinking of like drills like that. I just don't.
Genius. It was genius.
I used to actually, we used to sit a camera out and I would record the whole class so I can remember what God taught me to teach.
Uh,
And then I
that's
would go
powerful.
back and then I would write it down, man. But let me just keep it real practical. I believe, every instructor should record their class. Just record it. Get an iPad, an iPhone, sit in the corner, and just record. You're going to learn things about yourself. You're going to say, man, I wasn't patient there. I didn't hear that kid. Why did this happen? Oh, these four ain't even paying attention. So you can
Yep.
see all of that. And then sit and watch it, and it'll help you become a better teacher, and you'll be more in touch with what needs to be taught. And so let's say grooming etiquette. If I go into the locker room and I have middle schoolers who don't have jobs and it's funky, you guys need to understand hygiene. Okay, that right there lets me know we need to teach hygiene. If I hear kids talking about spending $200 on some gym shoes and you don't have a job, I say, okay, you need to understand the purpose of money. You see, and so that's why it's really the kids teach us how to teach. Have a curriculum, but allow them to show you what needs to be taught. Trust me, every martial arts school has it. If the teacher puts up a camera off to the side, put it on wide angle, and just start teaching, oh, he or she will see a lot. And so that's what I used to do. I need to get back to doing it, man. Actually, I'm like, whoa, because it really helped me to become the teacher I am today.
I love that. And the one thing that really stood out to me that you mentioned was just being present on the mat. Because I think we always talk about systems a lot for the clients that we coach and having that down, having class plans. But the one reminder we always give them is that it's a class plan, not a class law, which means plans are meant to be changed based on what's happening in the class. And if it says 10 minutes for this drill, but at the end of the 10 minutes, the students still aren't getting the concept, then you might need to spend another 10 minutes to make sure that they understand it. So I love, I love that. That goes right in line with what we teach. And you're doing it at another level. I also love the filming part of it. I think every single instructor needs to do that. We had a client do that once, and I asked him to send me the video. He's like, I don't want to send it to you. I was like, well, why not? He's like, Adam, I watched it. And he goes, there's 20 minutes. I was leaning against the wall with my hand in my belt, just barking commands. He's like, I'm embarrassed. And I think if we all did that, we're all usually a little bit more self-critical of ourselves, and it's a good lesson to learn. But I think a lot of us look at it from the martial arts side, but I would love now to go watch one of my classes and be like, well, how present was I? How did I connect with these students? Did I notice that this kid came in with his head hanging down before he stepped on the mat? And did I actually notice and have a conversation with him to see what went on with his day so that we could try and address it together? I think that is such a powerful tool and something that I haven't done in a while either. So thank you for that reminder.
That's very good, man. You brought up a point that one of my students, we're hard on himself, and we typically I keep them in a circle, and we'll do the techniques and drill from the center. That way I can see everyone. Yes. Everyone's exposed. If I do single file lines, the guy four people back can be digging in his nose or whatever. I couldn't see him. So we train from the circle, and then we work from the inside out. And so he has to roll out, you key me out, I'll punch or whatever. He hits the pass, whatever the drill is. This time he just started crying. I'm like, what's going on? You gotta move past that, because right now we're in a fight. But then I had to take off. The instructor had to say, wait a minute, let me bring some therapy here. What's going on? What are you hearing? He says, I'm not good enough. I'm like, who told you that? I did. I said, who's teaching? He says, you are? I said, if I didn't tell you that, it's a lie. And he looked at me. I said, wipe your tears, roll back, reset, and come back out here like you're great. I say, I told you guys, this space here, I want you to try to be Superman. You have no judgment, no condemnation. Let's just put this machismo aside, because that's what causes males to condemn themselves, because they somehow put a standard of what a man is in front of them. And we all make mistakes. We just only show the highlight reels on Instagram. And so that was very important. So when he came out, put my hand on his head, shoulder, that touch, that contact, let them know that you're locked in with them. Like nothing else matters right now. I love putting both of my hands on his shoulder and looking at him. I said, look me in my eyes, look me right here, listen to me. And that right there is silence everything around. It's like, man, this man literally is right here with me. Like if I would have had that, oh my God, in so many areas in my life. And so that you brought up a very good point, as a teacher, and truthfully, that's why I'm so big on men breaking free from emotional incarceration because, and women now these days as well. So that you can really express the good from your heart on the mat. The kids need all of that. But, when we take off our uniform, man, life is life, like my knees were killing me yesterday, but I had to teach. I had to get on the mats. I had to kneel down. You push past all of that so much, then eventually you think your life is supposed to be that way. And so now you're neglecting the areas in your life that really need your attention because of you're living from what you're doing instead of who you are. And so when we break free from that cycle of performance-based living, now you can be present because now you can leave. When you close your locker, everything is in there. When you walk out onto the mats, you can kind of breathe, inhale, exhale, and embrace the moment. And that's what's needed so bad, especially for our kids these days.
I agree. And to sort of continue on that topic, I know defining what a man is and masculinity, you have like the Andrew Tates, you have the complete opposite side where people want men to be more feminine and all this stuff. In today's society, how do you sort of tackle that issue, or how do you define that for your students so that they know what that role should look like as they grow up into a successful adult?
Well, first and foremost, we don't say masculine and feminine in our academy. It's a man-made words. It's really, to be more accurate. Sorry about that. To be more accurate, it is humanity, being human. Just because I'm strong, don't label me just masculine.
Agreed.
Just because I'm a nurturer, why would you label me feminine? You see where that goes?
Yep.
Just because, I have boys who wanted to be guard, but killed that dream because they thought that's not what a man's supposed to do. Because as soon as you hear this sensitivity or this sensitive side, it's like, well, wait a minute, we're only masculine, which is an adjective. It's not a description for manhood. It never was meant to be. Masculine is the attributes traditionally ascribed to men such as strength, boldness, and aggression. My mother had to be masculine when the teachers weren't paying attention to me in class or wanting to push medication on me. You got it? So she had to go up there, be very aggressive or assertive to take control so that she can get the best for her son. But just because if I like flowers, does this make me feminine or less of a man? When you understand that the samurai, who were some of the greatest warriors ever to existed, they were fond of the cherry blossom, sakura. And so did they come off as weak? No. No one dared to challenge the samurai's man. It's only when you get around a culture that doesn't really understand what it means to be a human being. So we say a comprehensive man is anything and everything he has to be at any given moment. He's courageous, but he's also compassionate. He's strong, but sensitive. He lives from the good in his heart instead of his fears. And the reason, man, we stay boxed in to just strength, boldness, aggression, or the emotions, anger, pretty much that's it. I say anger, okay? Anything outside of that, we don't want to delve into. But the reason that is because we believed a lot, or we've allowed society to define who we are. Women, I give women major props because, just think, look at all the mantras that were made of women, a woman's places in the kitchen, okay? No, it's not. They never allowed a culture to define them. But for some reason as men, when we hear, don't cry, what doesn't kill you can only make you stronger, no pain, no gain. Those are not universal truths at all. Even in sports, if your top, well, for instance, Aaron Rodgers just got hurt last night towards Achilles. Can we send him back out there tomorrow and say, no pain, no gain, man, let's go, baby? You can't, you see how foolish this mentality is. And so because of that, You got men dying by suicide 3 to 4 times as likely as women. We commit almost 90% of homicides in this country. 9 out of 10 people who live to be over 100 are women. And so the first thing we do, we say, no, you're going to be a comprehensive man. You're more than a masculine male. Okay. You got to know how to, your mother needs her feet massaged. What are you going to do? Oh, men don't do that. What? My mother had dementia. I had to do that when she was not feeling well. I had to wash her, comb her hair, bathe her. You know, you hear people in the faith say, I can do all things through Christ. You see it on gym shoes and t-shirts. But you can't do all things through Christ if you're only masculine. Because when he needs you to be sensitive, you can't. When he needs you to be compassionate, you can't. When he needs you to be long-suffering, you can't. You can only be bold, strong, and aggressive because you've allowed yourself to be limited by that definition. It's just an adjective. It's not a comprehensive definition of a man. As soon as you're defined, I've limited your potential. I remember I was at a conference, a mental health conference, and a guy says, what's your definition of a man? I said, you can't define one. He has to be anything and everything he has to be at any given moment. Women understand this. It's just us who, again, live performance-based lives. That's why we can't rest. We've adopted the grinding mentality like that's something you're perpetually supposed to stay in. The word itself is actually detrimental. The word grinding means to pulverize, to crush. You know, it also means oppress the poor, to grind. If you're in a machinery shop and someone yells out grinding, they hit the stop button to stop from wasting material. It's not a good word. You want to work hard, but you want to rest hard. We teach our boys work ethic, but we don't teach them rest ethic. And so as a result, we're stuck, we're unhealthy, unhappy, and, we hide behind this facade that everything is okay, and it's not. I get contacted by a lot of NFL, NBA players, baseball, Major League Baseball players, actors. No, man, we're not in a good place. But what I do love is that they're reaching out because they not only have said, I'm tired of this life. They want to do the work it takes to truly heal and become whole. So we show our sons in the academy that, hey, man, you're more than masculine. Don't get it wrong. You need to be the lion, but you got to always reset back to the lamb. You want to be in the lamb mode as much as possible. The lion is fight or flight. When he comes out, destruction should happen. A tone needs to be set. Someone needs to be checked. Something needs to happen when the lion comes out. Other than that, you reset back to the lamb. Get your brain out of fight or flight response. And so once a boy can see like, well, so wait a minute, I can be sensitive and strong. I can be caring and courageous. Like, absolutely. That's what we were created to do and be.
Man, I love that. I wish I met you 15 years ago.
I wish I would have met me too. Go ahead. What you were saying?
You hit the nail on the head. Like, even the way I was raised, like, I didn't, like, empathy was not something that was, like, masculine at all when I was growing up. So, like, I didn't understand empathy.
Hold on, real quick. Let me interject. Empathy is not masculine.
Yes, I know that. I'm saying I was taught.
I want to no, but this is what I'm trying to say. I'm telling you because it takes a moment to get it out of your psyche. It's being human. Masculine is an attribute. It's an adjective for description of attributes. So go ahead.
So you can see how I was brainwashed. But
hey, I did it for years. But go ahead.
But that's something that I didn't realize until like probably late 20s. That was such an important quality to have that I was missing. And I finally had a good friend that was just like, dude, you have zero empathy. And I was like, he's like, you don't know how to put yourself in other people's shoes. And I like sat there like losing sleep over it. And I was like, oh my God, he's right. I have never worked on empathy. I always thought it was a negative trait to have as a man. And that was something that I had to develop. And it's the same thing with the grinded out mentality. Like as entrepreneurs, we get that force fed to us. Like you have to hustle 24/7. You have to grind. And as a young adult, like that almost killed my marriage at one point because I was such in grind mode and hustle mode that I was neglecting my wife. And it was a valuable lesson for me to learn because it made our marriage so much stronger and better as a result of having to go through that. But it would have been even better if we didn't have to go through that. And it was something that I knew from the start. So I love that you are teaching that message.
I went through that as well. And so you're not alone. 2015, we were considering separation, man. I was yelling, and she simply was asking me to spend more time with her. But the way I heard it was like it was something else I wasn't doing right. And I hit my refrigerator so hard I put a dent in it. And at that moment, God was like, wow, you haven't even mastered your emotions yet. And so that's when I started to take the journey. And it was right before the video went viral, which I'm glad I started taking the journey. Our first psychotherapy session was 9 hours, man.
Wow.
And so I had to do a lot of internal work. And to your point, even about empathy, man, which is interesting. I remember seeing a special on the news of a soldier, and I believe he was in Iraq. And it was a little girl caught in the crossfire between the U.S., the Marines, and ISIS.
Mm.
And so he courageously set up a plan real quick, and he had cover. He raced out to get this little girl and brought her back. And so the news anchor asked him, she said, you were really courageous. And I mean, just for you to run out there, you're extremely brave and we applaud you. He says, that wasn't courage, that was love.
Mm.
And that right there set the tone. I'm like, that's it. You know what I mean? It's, we're so used as men to only saying these words that make us feel, I guess, more manly, for lack of better terms. But at the end of the day, it's love. It's love that makes a man jump in front of bullets for his family, not that he's courageous, and so why not just say that? I tell my brothers all the time, when you're in an argument with your wife, don't always go to anger. The emotion you initially feel is not really the one you need to express. I say, tell her she hurt you. Nothing hurts a man more than when his leadership is challenged and he doesn't feel respected.
Right.
Express the truth of that emotion instead of resorting to anger, and watch your wife drop her guard. And that's a language she understands. Like, oh, you can talk now and verbally process how you feel without yelling and being demonstrative. Like, yeah, I mean, so that becomes my goal when I'm with my wife and we get in an argument or disagreement. My goal is to see how long I can stay level. That I want to allow my capacity to explode. Like, I want to decrease it. Even if she says something makes me mad, I just want to go lower and lower and lower. And that's the when you're in front of somebody, just trying to, whatever if you're boxing or whatever, that's how I look at that. Like, can I win this war within myself so I can extinguish this external battle?
That is such a good analogy for martial artists when it comes to dealing with that anger and that first emotion. Because as soon as you said, like, when I'm sparring, I want to be the calmest dude out there. I want to be the guy that just sort of sees things happen in slow motions. And I've never thought about using that same mentality when I'm having an argument or discussion with my wife, where I just need to be like, let me be the calmest person in the room.
You know what's making me laugh, man? How often, I don't care what martial art it is. If you're in the striking martial art and you're supposed to just be sparring lightly, within a matter of minutes, you boom, 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 you're striking hard. Or if you want in jiu-jitsu, if you just want to roll lightly just to, get your blood going and get some movement, within a matter of minutes, you're going full throttle. And it's the ego, man. It's like, look, my goal is to stay calm the entire time, where I can feel my opponent. And, but yeah, that's definitely, again, as martial artists, man, we have that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, man. It's like, what is it for if you can't take it out the dojo? What's the benefit of being a black belt in any martial art but a white belt in life? It's meaningless. It's meaningless. And so that has always been my premise. It's like, man, make it mean something off the mat. Other than that, it's just, I remember the movie The Matrix when they were training in the dojo, him and Morpheus, Neo and Morpheus. Neo was sweet in the dojo. What happened when he said, let's go into real life, where he had to jump across from one building to the next? Skill was no longer needed. It was faith. And so Neo didn't have that. That's the internal training that's missing from what we're doing today. But when he got it, he was unstoppable.
I love that. And one thing I'm sort of curious about is I 100% agree that the skills don't matter if you can't take them and apply them in your regular everyday life. And one of the things that we always try and coach school owners on is like, when you're looking at your school as a whole, you need to define what a black belt means at your school and what that definition is, because if you don't even know the definition of that, how are you going to create a plan for all of your students and athletes to get there? So for your school and the way that you train people, what does a black belt mean when they get it?
Oh, we don't use belt rank. You know,
Okay.
I've studied the arts. Well, you know this, I mean, in the business, you know that, who was it? Kano, who invented the belt ranking system, for judo. But the black belt in our academy simply means, you just welcome into the brotherhood. So when you come, you usually get it like a white belt. That just means so we recognize who you are and what level you're at. Well, we do rite of passage systems where everyone comes through together. So no one can pass each other to go to another level in the training.
Interesting.
So the black belt in our academy represents the darkness of this world. The red that you will see on my belt that's at the knot where you tie represents the being Christ-centered or centered in Christ, the blood, the sacrifice it takes to lead. And if you see the white stripes on the side, is 40 for completion, which meaning I've overcome the tests and trials of this world. And so our system I designed it completely different for the sake, because so many students chase the belt rank instead of truly learning what it's about. But for schools who do have belt ranks, which I do respect, by the way, I do think it's imperative that the black belt is definitely held to the highest standard. I remember even in, what art was this? Was it, oh my gosh, Shaolin Kempo? Yes. You had to make makawar boards by hand. You had to do community service. I mean, it was way much more than just training in the arts. And I didn't even get a black belt rank in that. What's interesting, he said, you know, you surpassed pretty much almost all of my high ranking students because I sought the principle and not techniques. And I still recorded messages from him today that keeps me encouraged. But that having that position of a teacher, whether it's a black belt or, I mean, you have now MMA guys who don't even seek rank can beat black belts, you know? So what is it? So if we look at the principle is you're talking about leadership. When you're in front of people, there is a responsibility that comes with that. For me, the scriptures teach me, to whom much is given, much is required. To whom much is entrusted, much more will be demanded. And so with that, not anyone can step in these shoes. And it needs to be held with high regard. And again, you have to be willing to give whatever it takes. If a parent calls me, I don't care what time it is in the morning, it could be 3 in the morning, and their son isn't doing well, I gotta get up and do what I need to do. You know, many times I had to go over where son was basically threatening a mother. I had to go over and play dad and intervene, say, okay, threaten me now. You know, why won't you threaten me? You threaten her. And just to give him a perspective. But at the end of all this love, when you sacrifice, and I learned this caring for my mother with dementia, sacrifice is not doing what you want to do. Sacrifice is doing what someone else needs to be done that you don't want to do.
Yes.
And so at the end of the day, it's like we misconstrue sacrifices with doing what we want to do that's hard work. That's not sacrifice. Sacrifice is doing something that needs to be done that you don't want to do. That's a sacrifice. And so I've had to learn that every good teacher, every black belt that I know personally have those characteristics. And they don't take it for granted. And I feel that, you know, if I had an academy that was based off belt ranking, each one of them would have a community service component. Each one of them would have a creed. Each one would have, like, for instance, so for our students to pass the rite of passage, not only do myself and my assistant instructor name needs to be on the certificate, their parents' name have to be on there. So their parents have to sign off that their sons have been doing what we've been doing in the school in their lives. If not, again, I'm about making better citizens out in this world. What you do in this area here is like the Matrix. You know, okay, you plug in, you can download it, you're good. Let me see when life becomes your teacher. You know what I'm saying? This is the test in here, but that's the final exam. Let me see what happens when you go out there. Are you tempted to bully a kid because now you feel like you're stronger or you're peer pressured into doing so? Can you sit still or do you feel like you have to have to be hyperactive and lack focus? And so those things. And so when your students see it's more than a belt, you may find out not too many may not even want to get to that rank, and that would save a lot of great teachers a lot of time because so many of us have a hard time finding people to replace us or finding people just to be faithful teaching because they think this belt is magic and it's not. If your heart isn't right and you don't really understand what it means to be in that position, they're going to fade away. One of my teachers at Aiki Bujutsu had black belts all around the dojo, all the way around it. Why we only had 5 black belts teaching? At least
Good point.
50 pictures, 60 pictures. Why only 5? And that's the problem because, again, people look at the belt like a trophy when it's a responsibility.
I think, too, structuring it that way gets the parents to buy in more. I think from parent perspective, most like good parents don't really care about the belt. They care about the skills that are being acquired along the way, and then the child showing those skills outside the school. And I think that's spot on. Last question for you, Jason, because I want to respect your time. If you had a magic wand and could just change one thing about the martial arts industry in general to put it in a better place, what would you change?
Um, hmm. A couple of things stand out. I'm trying to pick one.
You can if you want to touch on a
Okay,
couple, that's fine too.
I'll
Yeah.
touch on a couple. Okay. First, of course, I mean, the theme of pretty much our entire discussion is that martial art teachers would truly teach from the good in their hearts instead of, and I get it. I mean, you got to keep the lights on and all that. But I wish that environment could change because there's some great teachers out here, man, with great hearts. But because a lot of times, they feel pressured and with, making sure the kid tests. That's why they have all these stickers in certain martial arts. So they can keep them encouraged and keep going. And I get it, but is that really helping the child? And so it's like, and these are some great teachers, man. I'm telling you. And I talk to them. They said, man, I want to teach like you, but I don't think the parents have enough patience for that. So then you extend, just say a child getting a belt rank, it takes typically say a year. Now you extend that to 2 years because now it incorporates more into the training, which takes more time away from the techniques, etc. How many parents are patient for that? Parents want it, like you're saying, they do. But I just wish more martial art teachers had the freedom to teach like I do because they're out there, and then and they want to. And then secondly, I wish if I had a magic wand, I would remove the lack of unity. And what I mean by that, this martial art is better because of this. This martial art does this. This don't work because of this. I found I've found uh, great things to learn, to teach, and apply in every martial art I've studied. Even to this day, if it's taught correctly, what's the principle behind it? And I just wish that we could all have a unified front in that regard. Um, and those are the two and that I see, especially on social media. As soon as someone posts a video, will that work in MMA? Would this work for real over here? That
Yep.
doesn't look like that. Why is he doing that? And so I just wish that spirit could be removed.
Well, I love both of those. I'm excited for you to meet one of my good friends, Jody Tension, at the summit. You're going to your first point. He talks all the time about how too many martial artists pick symbols over substance. They use the stickers and the belts as symbols without actually having the substance to back up why that child is receiving that recognition. And I think you guys are going to hit it off perfectly. You guys have similar teaching styles too, the way you connect with students. So it's like, I'm excited for you to meet him. I know he's excited to meet you as well. We are so honored to have you as our keynote speaker at the summit this year. So I just want to thank you again for agreeing to do that, because I know you're a busy man. You got a business growing really fast as well, which is awesome to see. And you're working on the third book. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm actually writing it now. So it's really, manuscript is due in January. They want to release it.
Awesome.
Rush it to come out September 2024. And so, yeah, I was honored when my agent sent me the request. I said, "Wow, I've never heard of this." So I started looking at the videos and things like, "Wow, this is interesting." And to be able to share how I teach, train, and transform boys or children with other men and women who are martial art teachers and gym owners, that's an honor. And so I'm hoping that what I've learned along my journey will help them.
Yeah, it absolutely will. I think what you're doing is something that's very much missing from our industry. And I think it's going to add so much value and just help martial arts instructors everywhere to elevate what they're doing and create deeper connections and a more lasting impact. Because I know 99% of the people that teach martial arts are in this because they were impacted positively by their journey. And I think a lot of them just struggle with how to have that same impact with their students and athletes. And I think that's where you come in perfectly, because that's your superpower. We see that all the time on social media. And yeah, I'm super excited to have you there.
I'm honored, man. I'm honored because, again, I revere, I love all the arts. I love all teachers who really are broken to pour out of them what's been poured into them. And so if I could just help them understand the power of being vulnerable. I was even asked to do, certain workshop trainings for small group sessions for teachers only, flying and traveling to certain schools and have these transparent conversations where they can get some more healing. And why do you fear being vulnerable? Let's go back to your childhood. Could it even have been a bad martial art instructor? I've had a couple, and so, yeah, but far as the men and women that I see today that I know, I mean, there's some great teachers out here. And if I could help them break free from whatever's prohibiting them from really saying, "Hey, I got so much more to do here. My vision is so much bigger than this." I'll be honored to just play any role in helping them live that out.
Yeah, I think it is a perfect fit for our event. I know a lot of people are looking forward to seeing you. The few that hadn't heard of you, I showed your video and they're like, "I want to learn how to do that."
That's cool.
So we're honored.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, and thank you again for being on the podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you in October then.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing all of you and look forward to meeting you in person as well.
Same. Thank you, Jason.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
You too.
We're unstoppable, to the top, we about to go. That CEO, I need to know the impact, we about to grow. Competition comical, straight A1, we on the road. Money focus for the goal, tell them what they need to know. We unstoppable.